1,587 cedis per bag. One other issue, the cocoa farmers and people who are well versed in the cocoa industry had been talking about is the financing of cocoa. You recall, or you will know that in previous years, one of the ways Cocoa Board would finance is the loans they take. And with these loans, after the COVID, where we had challenges with our debts and everything, it became much more difficult for Cocoa Board to be able to secure some of these loans. Now, government says that they are introducing a new way to finance the purchase of cocoa in the country. So they are moving away from the syndicated loan to another model which will deal with the issuance of bonds to the market for people to buy the bonds, and those bonds would be used to finance the purchase of cocoa. Another thing government intends to do is to boost local production and get 50% of the beans to be processed here. What we have known in the past is that we have more than 70% of our cocoa beans being exported to be processed. Now, what government intends to do, per what the finance minister has announced to us, is that now 50% of these beans will be processed here. What it intends to do, or what would happen, is that it's going to boost local industries. We are going to get a lot more cocoa processing industries to be able to process our own cocoa rather than send the cocoa away, process, then we import with the end product. We want to now get the chain, we produce, we process, and what happens next is that we would sell and actually export the finished goods. So this is what government has put in place. The finance minister also indicated that very fine details of these proposals would be explained by the Cocoa Board itself as to how the new financing would take place, whether Cocoa Board now would allow other people to buy directly instead of going through Cocoa Board. The fine details of all these will be made clear to the general public through the management of Cocoa Board. So yes, these are the reforms that we were all hoping or expecting to hear from the finance ministry. Whether indeed these reforms could be implemented, because you know, a lot of the times what happens is that we come out with reforms, but the implementation of some of these things become a challenge. So now what we look out and we'll be following up with is to see whether government itself could ensure or will ensure the full implementation of these reforms, and how the various players within the cocoa sector would buy into these reforms. Because you see, it's not just a government thing. Once government announces, it affects so many different people within the cocoa industry. It affects farmers, it affects producers, it affects buyers, it affects people who would eventually import and sell, or who would also export. So when you put all these together, what are the players within this industry saying? Are these reforms going to help them? Do they have some challenges with some of the things which have been said? What proposals are they also going to put on the table? Don't forget that this new reforms and proposals are going to be put before Parliament in the bill to amend the current regime which runs our cocoa industry. There's a new bill being sent to Parliament to get these reforms accepted by Parliament, passed as law, and implemented by the implementation bodies. So from now until when these things will be implemented, we are expected to see the players within the industry and their views about it, and how they are going to rally around the government to help this implementation take place, or whether they would have some opposition. For me, I'm also going to expect to hear from the farmers themselves in terms of the directive for all their monies to be paid. The issue is, how are these monies going to be paid? Where are we going to get the money from? We are not really told where these monies are going to be gotten from to pay. But government says that these monies should be paid immediately. This after the cabinet meeting. So what are the expectations? What is the time frame in which we should expect that the cocoa farmers receive these monies owed them? So these are all things which in the coming days, in the coming hours, we would be looking forward to hear from the various players within the sector.
Right, thank you very much. You're still watching Channel 1 Television. We're coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. Fred and I having a conversation about a press conference which was held just a while ago, but the finance minister announcing some sweeping reforms within the cocoa sector on the back of recent challenges with the payment of cocoa farmers since November 2025 to date, where the farmers have complained bitterly, threatened a demonstration and called on government to ensure that they are paid. The finance minister says from Friday, all payments, or they will start the payment of these arrears owes the farmers, and then other reforms within the sector. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you Situation Room. Today we are talking about vote buying and why there's a need to ensure that we bring an end to the phenomenon of vote buying, which has dominated conversations in time past. But then before we begin that conversation on the Situation Room and then the issue of the vote buying, let's speak to someone who is well versed within the cocoa sector and the issues raised by the finance minister. Let's talk to Francis Tenor, who is a cocoa farmer. Listen to the press conference from the finance minister and what he makes of these announcements as announced by the finance minister. Francis, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure you listened to the finance minister. Are you impressed with the sweeping reforms that he announced?
Yeah, good afternoon, my brother. Partially, I had information about whatever the finance minister addressed the public. Although I didn't get everything, but I was told the cocoa price has been slashed down from 3,650 cedis to 2,587 cedis. That's a difference of about 1,000 plus cedis. This is very unfortunate because nobody will encourage reduction in price. But looking at the current situation that we find ourselves, both farmers and all the value people on the value chain understands that the price on the world market has dropped significantly. That cocoa board need to even borrow.
Hello, Francis. Hello, Francis. I'm afraid we do not have Francis. A few technical challenges, but we'll try and raise Francis back on Zoom to continue his submission. Basically, giving a reaction to the press conference the finance minister addressed just a while ago on some reforms within the cocoa sector, which he believes or government believes will help streamline activities at the cocoa board and address the recent challenges that has come up as far as the payment of arrears of cocoa farmers is concerned. The long-term solution to address the many challenges which cocoa board has gone through since the administration of this government. I'm told Francis is back on. Francis, you're making a submission before that technical challenge.
Yes. So I started from as the challenge began, when the price started dropping from the world market. We were all aware that's where we are going. There is nothing cocoa board can do or government can do than to slash down the price to be able to sustain the area. Because looking at even the debt that is accumulating, we ask ourselves, where will government get money to be able to pay these debts? Because the price on the world market currently is around 3,800, 4,000. When you convert it into the current exchange rate, it means one bag is going around 2,500, 2,600. So if government have to buy the cocoa, or cocoa board has to buy the cocoa from for 3,600, then we continue to ask ourselves that where is government getting the difference to top it up? That alone should tell everybody that if you are going to that tangent, it means that the sector is not sustainable. So definitely government has to slash the price down to be able to reorganize ourselves, control the supply on the world market, because per the statistics, it's demand and supply that control prices. And because the way the price is dropping on the world market, what government has to do is that we need to collaborate with the Ivory Coast counterpart to be able to control supply on the world market so that price will appreciate. So that in the long run, when price appreciates, cocoa farmers also get the rare price. We started calling for this. When the price went up to 12,000, we were telling Cocoa Board that if you don't do something about this, if you don't pay the farmers the rare price, when the price declined and you want to reduce it, we won't accept it. Because when the price went up to 12,000, one bag of cocoa was more than 10,000. That farmers were expecting something more than 5,000 or around 5,000 per bag. But the government didn't listen to us. Continue to buy the cocoa in 3,000. Now you see the situation we find ourselves. But it's very unfortunate, but we need to welcome it, because other than that, the sector will not be sustainable. There was a time some of my farmers call me and tell me, Francis, if the price will be reduced for us to be paid, it's better than to be selling at where we all know that it's not sustainable. And even if you are not careful, it will be difficult for us to get our money. Because as from January, schools have reopened. Farmers want us to go to school and they need money. They send their cocoa to LBCs and nobody is having money to pay. We have been crediting cocoa for about 2 months now. How do we survive? So I think this is the right way, and we are all welcoming it, not because we are happy, but because we want to be paid. And also, if you look at the other measures that finance ministers try to put across, that they are not going for syndication, but they will go for bonds, means that every year there will be money. We will not short money. In case that system works perfectly, it means that when you go for the bonds, it can be 10 years bond. So every year there will be money sitting down. What we are praying is that we'll get good managers, that when the money comes to hit into the accounts, they will not use it for things that is not in the value chain. Because we have seen several years that Cocoa Board has gone for loans. And after they go for loans, things that they write in the proposal that they want to use the loan for ends up for a different thing. There was the money that the loan that they took for cocoa rehabilitation. You ask yourself, go to the field and check the number of funds that they have rehabilitated, and there's no money. There's money that they took, that they will supply money to off-takers, that as we are talking now, they have not supplied those volumes to them. That is a cost on Cocoa Board. So we are begging them that any bonds that they will go in the name of cocoa should strictly be used for cocoa and nothing else. They shouldn't use cocoa monies that they will go for bonds for those chargeable lamps. Sometimes you look at how they spend cocoa money, then they will tell you they bought chargeable lamps. Then the chargeable lamps, whom did they give those chargeable lamps to? And who even asked them to buy chargeable lamps for cocoa farmers? You go to the various cocoa stations and you have over the overhead costs, the number of staff that they have accumulated in those offices, that they are not contributing anything to the value chain. So through the drastic measure, they should reduce the overhead costs. Staff that they have employed, that they are not adding anything to the value chain, should be taken off to any place at all that they think it will worth it. Because most of these extension officers that they are overstaffed in the whole cocoa stations in Ghana, is not helping. All those things are bringing costs.
Francis, how
farmers supposed to get, we are not getting.
How soon do you expect the payments, to get to your members? How soon do you expect?
For us, we are even expecting the money today. But looking at what the finance minister is saying, that they will start tomorrow. And we all know that bank transaction will take some days for it to be reflected. And you see, sometimes when they pay money to these our LDCs, as I'm speaking, most of the LDCs are owing their bankers. So even this money that they are going to pay, I don't know how fast it will be. And I don't know whether they are going to pay all at once. Because if you pay part, if finance minister pay part of the money, then they should have in mind that those monies will not reach the farmers. Simply because the LDCs went for loans to buy some of the cocoa. So when they pay, their payment dates are due. Some of them have to pay their bankers in January. So if you give them part payment, it means that the money will drop into those accounts and the bankers will take their money. So they have to pay it in full and even add some to it for them to be able to buy the current one that we are producing. Other than that, you have in mind that some monies have been paid, but farmers will still continue to complain. And what we are saying, that for the decline, it's not that we are happy accepting the price, but what we are saying is that when the price also appreciates, they should ensure that they will increase it proportional, so that the farmer will also enjoy his sweat. Because as I'm speaking, if you look at the cost of production in cocoa, all these mathematics, I think we need to sit down and work things out, because cost of production of one bag is around 4,000. So when we sell our cocoa around 2,500 today, it means the farmer is running at losses. So if I'm running at losses, for the cocoa board to be able to sustain the sector so that we all benefit, and tomorrow the price appreciates to 12,000 and you continue to give us 3,000, then that one, we won't accept it. And if you are not careful, the demonstration that we try to do that because of these drastic measures that government has taken, even just calling for a cabinet meeting tells us a lot that government also has the farmer at heart. And we are appealing to all our farmers that it's not a good news, but for us to be able to sustain the sector, we should all accept it, so that going forward, we cooperate with government as they bring in measures that going forward, they will go for bonds, which we all understand that when they go for bonds, the money will be sitting down yearly. So every time there will be money, we will not short money. So if that is what we have foreseen, and it's happening that doesn't happen, then I think farmers will not be happy at all.
Okay, Francis, thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Francis Timo is a cocoa farmer. He's the president of the Manko Cooperative Cocoa Farmers Association, reacting to the press conference addressed a while ago by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Kesel Ato-Oforsen. Fred, looks like the cocoa farmers are a bit satisfied or relieved with this announcement. Looks like, from what Francis is saying.
Yeah, from what Francis is saying, is that they don't have a choice. They think that the reduction in the prices of cocoa, even though they would have wished for it to remain the same or go up, in the current circumstances we find ourselves, it is the best, because they want their money and they are pleading with government to ensure that these monies are paid immediately as promised. They also accept the new financing structure where there will be a bond which will be issued to ensure that there's always money to get the money for the purchase of cocoa. So generally, I think that Francis, who leads a group of cocoa farmers, is satisfied somehow and somewhat with the reforms, even though they still have some concerns. But generally, I think that listening to Francis, they seem to be satisfied with some of these reforms.
Thank you very much. You're still watching the Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll deal with the issue of vote buying, which has dominated media discussions in recent times.
Are you ready to revolutionize the future of agriculture? The Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, in partnership with the Ghana Exim Bank, proudly presents the Ghana Agrotech Fair 2026. The fair will feature exhibitions, market linkages, masterclasses, and workshops on climate-smart farming, digital tools, and export development. Join us at the Black Star Square from March 17 to March 19 at 9 a.m. each day. The President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, will be assisted by the Minister for Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, the Honorable Elizabeth Ofosu-Jari, and the Chief Executive of the Ghana Exim Bank, Honorable Sylvester Adina Mensah, to open the fair. Government agencies, agrotech firms, startups, farmers, financial institutions, and the general public are all welcome. To exhibit or for inquiries, call 0559 679326 or 0242 585419. Ghana Agrotech Fair 2026, transforming agribusiness through local innovation and technology.
Chinyia pata mobaminole. I'm about to remilolo. I should not cook any bashe. What's saying just for more papa.
Osmolelo.
Me a twin jolly again town.
Twin jolly. Yenekeshiane.
Shiani, Mofonio.
This Valentine, love deserves a soundtrack.
A night where hearts beat as one, where melodies speak the words you cannot say.
Join us on the 21st of February for an unforgettable romantic Valentine concert, Shades of Love.
Featuring soulful live performance from Aquabwa, timeless love songs, and an atmosphere made for romance.
Bring a special someone or come and fall in love with the music.
Venue, Sen Garden. Date, Saturday, 21st February 2026. Time, 7 p.m.
For tickets and reservations, call 0243-254416.
This Valentine, don't just say I love you. Sing it, feel it, live it.
Media partners for Shades of Love concert. Channel 1 TV, 97.3 City FM, 3 Music TV, and Foresight TV.
Yeah, welcome back. You're still watching The Situation, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. I am Sami Wiafe, and as always, I'm here with my friend, colleague, brother, Fred Tete Jabano. We're talking about vote buying. In recent time, Ayawaso East constituency has dominated media discussion, and one name has come up in the whole conversation, which is Baba Jamal, Ghana's former High Commissioner to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There's accusation of vote buying during the party's parliamentary primary in the constituency on the 7th of February 2026. Baba Jamal eventually won, but clear videos on social media and across saw TV sets being shared to delegates who were expected to cast their ballots in the primary. He's on public record to have said that these are gifts he gave to the delegates, and he says it's not an inducement, it's just a gift from him to the hard-working delegates of the Ayawaso East constituency. But then the broader conversation has come up that would there ever be a time where the issue of vote buying will go away from the politics of Ghana? The CDD and other civil society organizations have raised issues on this matter, that there is the need to do away with money or moneycracy in Ghana's politics. The former Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, Professor Michael Okwui, has also spoken on this matter. And he says it's about time we deal with it. The political parties on the other hand made attempts with the expansion of the various electoral colleges, so at least money will not have an influence on delegates or voters. But still, we are told that the special prosecutor is even investigating allegations of money or sharing or vote buying during the MPP presidential primary, which had a broader electoral college of over 200,000, and also investigating the same Ayawaso East primary issue. So today we're talking about the broader issue of how we deal with vote buying, which has dominated Ghana's politics, especially within the primaries of the two major political parties, the MPP and the NDC. And then we'll also talk about the committee that was set up by the NDC FEC to deal with this matter as far as Baba Jamal is concerned. But then before we do that, let's speak to someone who knows more about Ghana's politics. He's a former member of parliament for the Kumbungu constituency, somewhere in the northern region. His name is Ras Mubarak. He's been in parliament before. He's been on the ticket of the NDC before, and has gone through this same delegate system and getting to parliament finally, is it a must for every candidate to pay something to delegates or influence delegates to get them elected as parliamentary candidates or presidential candidates before any major election? Let's speak to Ras Mubarak and get his thoughts on this matter. Ras, thank you very much for your time. You've been an MP before. Before you got to MP in Kumbungu, did you have to pay delegates or give them gifts before they finally nominated or selected you to be the party's candidate in that constituency?
Well, good evening. And the reality is that I was elected on the ticket of the NDC in one of the most progressive election systems that the NDC had put in place. In 2015, the NDC had the expanded electoral college, which meant that every card-bearing member of the NDC had an opportunity to have a say in who became the candidate of the party in various constituencies around the country. So in my constituency, for instance, you had 18,000 people who voted on the day of the primary, and I wiped everybody on the floor because it was a popularity contest, and so it was impossible in the primary of 2015 for anyone to induce or pay delegates money. Now, the NDC had adopted the system because we all had come to the conclusion that, our politics had been overtaken by monetization. And if we're not careful, would have, drug barons and all manner of criminals either financing, elections in our country or by themselves, getting elected to the high office of, parliament and other positions, in the various parties. And, that could spell doom for our country. But sadly, the expanded electoral college system of the NDC in 2015 was infiltrated, by persons who were not on, card-bearing members of the NDC. And that led to a lot of ramifications. And instead of the party cleaning up the register and plucking the loopholes, the party decided to just, throw away a system that was very progressive and go back to the delegate system, where, we had agreed that, look, it wasn't in the best interest of the country. So fast forward 2019, I contested in the small electoral college system. Now, we had moved from, if I were to use Kumbungu as an example, we had moved from a primary that had 18,000 delegates voting to a primary that had 666 delegates voting. And, the rest is history. I'm sure you might have heard or read about, my complaints about vote buying in 2019, and even formally writing to the BNI to investigate the primary in Kumbungu, and also writing to the party complaining and asking that, we take a serious look at, the electoral system we had reverted to. But this is a canker that has engulfed politics, and all attempts would have to be made, to nip it in the bud. The thing is, vote buying destroys our, politics. It destroys our democracy. It is illegal in the country, and it is not only those who give or induce delegates people who may have fallen foul of the law, but those who receive the inducement, per the Political Parties Act, would have violated, the laws of our country as well. So as we, talk about these things broadly, we need to send a strong warning to persons who are delegates that, look, if the system were not to be changed and you make a habit of taking inducements from candidates, you could find yourself in very hot waters. And so what needs to happen now for all the parties is for them to say never again and institute reforms that are forward-looking, reforms that would make it near impossible for anyone to induce delegates, either in a constituency election, regional election, national election, or parliamentary or presidential elections. The thing is, laws by themselves do not stop crime. And that is why day in, day out, you read or see incidences of armed robbers being arrested and being jailed in spite of the fact that they keep getting arrested. So the fact that you may have stringent laws would not by themselves stop people from attempting to induce delegates. What you need to do is to make it impossible for anybody to induce delegates, and that would come with expanding the electoral college as we did in 2015, but also having proper laws on party campaign financing. And this is something that myself, the Honorable Yunus of Hussaini, and several others had championed and spoken about extensively during our time in Parliament, because we keep getting people throw in quite a lot of money in our politics, and nobody knows where these monies are coming from. So you need a system that would say, if Fred were to run for election in constituency A, he needs to declare where every peswa to his election is coming from. And if I'm a businessman and I want to donate to a political party or a candidate, I need to have fulfilled my obligations under the law, which is I should have been able to pay all my taxes, before I can begin to even think about, supporting a candidate to run for elections. But that would also require for law enforcement agencies to be proactive, because in all of this, we haven't seen, the proactiveness of law enforcement agencies, in spite of the fact that, some of these incidences of vote buying are very pervasive.
But Baraz, if we say you don't see the proactiveness of the law enforcement, in recent times, we've seen the special prosecutor take interest in not just the Baba Jama one, but including the MPP presidential primary. So at least we are seeing some headway in that aspect.
I wouldn't agree with you. I mean, there were 5 candidates in that election, at least per the reports of the committee that the NDC set out, to investigate the allegations of vote buying. At least 4 of the candidates, had also induced delegates. And so if the special prosecutor is extending an invitation to, only Baba Jamal, it tells you that, he just wants to, play to the gallery. Now, we also saw in the special prosecutor's report or public notice that they had begun, some investigation into the NPP primary. I mean, they didn't tell the public this until the Baba Jamal issue came out. And they knew that clearly, the public would ask that, but we saw incidences of, voter inducement in the MPP primary. So I'm saying it's not just a special prosecutor. Even the BNI on the ground should be able to send reports. The police should be, very proactive. Everyone, we all would have to be involved, including the chiefs and opinion leaders and assembly members and persons who matter in various constituencies, who see these things daily and, whenever there are elections, and actually turn a blind eye, probably because they are by themselves, beneficiaries of some of these inducements. But it is destroying our country. I want to see a Ghana where every Ghanaian, male or female, of sound mind, especially women and the youth, being able to compete on an even keel in any election. Look, but for the fact that the NDC had expanded its electoral college in 2015, there was no way Sam George was going to beat E.T. Mensah. And I believe, the public would agree this was a towering figure in the NDC, former minister, etc. Sam George didn't have the kind of resources, to match him. But for the the expansion of the electoral college, we would not have discovered the Isaac Adongos, the Clementa Parks, etc. So it tells you that when parties do the right thing by leveling the playing field, we get to discover more and more equally talented, brilliant young Ghanaians, men and women who could equally contribute, to the advancement of our country. And I don't see, especially for I don't see why a social democratic party should be afraid of expanding its electoral college.
Yes.
Now, what has happened in, Ayawaso East should serve as a strong warning that the public would not put up with this kind of behavior in our country, where our elections have been completely overtaken by people with money.
Raz, this is not the first time we've heard about vote buying. This is not the first time we've heard people complain. We've heard the political class complain. You heard CSO complaining. This is not the first time we've spoken about people expanding the delegate system, making sure that every member of each political party votes. The question is, you people within the political class, are you really interested in the expansion? Because I don't understand why every other election cycle, some of these things will happen. It would have people like Ras Mubarak come to say, look, let's do this, let's do this. Where is the commitment, and who is responsible of ensuring that these things are done from the political class? Because this decision or this action cannot be taken by CSOs or by the public. It is the political class. Where is the willingness, and how is it supposed to be done?
And then, Raz, before you answer that, I add up that because it ignores the benefit of the political class, you are not interested in doing what Fed says you guys are supposed to do.
Well, I mean, you couldn't have been more right. It was the late Guyanese, politician and writer, John Henry Clark, who said that powerful people would never educate powerless people in what it means to take away the power from them. That the aim of powerful people is to stay in power by any means necessary, end quote. So indeed, the political class, I mean, in the 2015 primary of the NDC, you saw how big shots fell, all right? And obviously some people felt threatened by the fact that the party had opened enough. But look, we've gotten to a point or a stage in our politics, especially as a political party, where we can no longer resist calls by the public to reform and do the right thing. And I don't think that the NDC nor the MPP would miss this opportunity to actually, institute the necessary reforms to make it happen. But I would also like to encourage the public that we are players. We shouldn't just be spectators. We are stakeholders in the progress, especially of our country. And so if something is amiss, it shouldn't be only CSOs and newsmen and women who should, raise red flags about these things. That the public has a duty. And indeed, you saw the outcry from the public when the incidences of voter inducement erupted from Ayawaso East. And so we are getting to a point in our country where the politicians can no longer resist calls to do the right thing. I mean, it's unsustainable, and it's making our democracy more and more expensive. And it's also reducing the quality of representation in parliament, because it's become pretty much, something for the highest bidder. And you are getting more and more people leave parliament simply because they would rather stay out or not run for re-election, than to go into an election where they know they would lose because they haven't amassed sufficient amount of resources to run these elections. And one of the dangers to our democracy is that of all the laws we are passing in parliament, there are fewer and fewer MPs who are actually making meaningful contribution when it comes to legislation, whether it's at the committee level or at plenary. Chamber, most often very empty because people are busy out there looking for money, to keep their constituencies or looking for money for re-election. And there's got to be a stop to these things. And we've got to say enough is enough, and never again must these things occur. But if we open up, and we don't pass legislation on party campaign financing, where there has to be a cap on how much every person running for political office could spend, you may have some, special people who could actually raise sufficient amount of money, to decide to induce delegates, be they 20,000 or 15,000 or 30,000, and for me, so we've got to be able to chew gum and walk. We've got to be able to do multiple things in addressing this issue of vote buying in our elections. And I can tell you, but for the legal challenges that would have confronted the NDC, the candidates who ran in Ayawaso East would all have been disqualified, but one. At least 4 of them would have been disqualified because the party found sufficient evidence that, look, voters had been induced. But of course, the party was confronted with the legal issue. And the legal issue is that if the Electoral Commission runs an election and certifies the election as free, fair, and credible, does the party has the legal authority to annul or nullify the election? The answer is a big no. You know, and so that's where the NDC found itself. It was a big conundrum, you know, as to what to do. It didn't want to be slapped with legal battles here and there. So they had to take a practical way out of the situation.
Ras, thank you. We ran out of time, so I'll say a big thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Ras Mubarak is a former member of parliament for the Kumungu constituency in the Northern region, the former CEO of the National Youth Authority, speaking to us there on the broader conversation of voter inducement, vote buying, and corruption-related issues as far as election is concerned. Coming on the back of the Ayawaso East constituency NDC parliamentary primary. Fred?
Yes, Sammy. Let me just leave you with this quote from Oscar Ameringa.
Thank you.
He's a German politician.
Thank you, my brother.
He said that politics is a gentle art of getting votes from the poor and campaign funds from the rich by promising to protect each other from the other.
Repeat it.
Politics is the gentle art of getting votes from the poor and campaign funds from the rich by promising to protect each other from the other.
On that note, from the German scholar, which Fred Jaban has just read to us, there's another exciting edition of The Citiuation that came to you live from our studio here in Accra. I'm Sammy Wiafe Hayes, Fred Tete Jaban. So come your way again. May the good Lord be with us all.